The rain-slicked streets of San Francisco's Chinatown gleamed under the sodium glow of street lamps, casting long shadows that danced like wary informants in the fog. Mia Chen wiped the steam from the window of Golden Lotus Diner, her shift dragging into the humid night. At 28, she was a fixture here, pouring coffee for insomniac cabbies, dodging the occasional grope from rowdy tourists, all while dreaming of something beyond the greasy counter and the endless clatter of chopsticks. The air hung heavy with the scent of sizzling garlic and soy, undercut by the distant hum of traffic on Grant Avenue. She stepped out for a smoke during the lull, the bell above the door jingling like a half-hearted warning. The crosswalk at the corner was a river of red taillights, but tonight it felt emptier, the post-dinner crowd thinned by the drizzle. That's when she saw her, an old Korean woman, frail as rice paper, clutching a worn handbag at the curb. Her silver hair was pinned in a neat bun, but her eyes darted like she was crossing more than just a street, perhaps a line she shouldn't. The woman hesitated, one foot hovering over the puddle-strewn asphalt. A truck barreled through, horn blaring, and she flinched back. Mia flicked her cigarette away, the ember hissing in a puddle. "Hey, ma'am! You need a hand," she called, weaving through the light traffic. The woman looked up, her face etched with lines that spoke of secrets buried deeper than the city's cable car tunnels. She nodded faintly, gripping Mia's arm with surprising strength. They moved slowly, the rain pattering on Mia's jacket like impatient fingers. "Thank you, dear," the woman murmured in accented English, her voice a whisper against the city's roar. Not many stop anymore. Mia smiled, steadying her as they reached the opposite sidewalk. The woman's hand lingered, pressing something small into Mia's palm, a jade pendant on a thin chain, cool and smooth as river stone. "For luck," she said, then shuffled away into the shadowed alley beside a noodle shop, vanishing like smoke. Mia stared at the pendant, turning it over. It wasn't cheap. The carving was intricate, a dragon coiled around a pearl, weird gift for a stranger. She pocketed it and headed back to the diner, the weight of it tugging at her thoughts. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed, and her co-worker Lena shot her a grin. "Hero of the night, saw you playing Good Samaritan." "Just being decent," Mia replied, tying her apron tighter. But as she poured refills, a prickling unease settled in. Through the window, a black SUV idled across the street, its tinted windows reflecting the neon sign like black mirrors. Probably nothing. Chinatown was full of them, delivery vans or ride shares. Still, she caught a glimpse of movement inside, a silhouette shifting. The dinner rush picked up, plates clinking and laughter bubbling from a corner booth of locals. Mia moved on autopilot, her mind on the old woman. Why the pendant, and why did it feel like eyes were on her now? She glanced out again. The SUV was gone, swallowed by the flow of cars. Shaking it off, she cleared a table, pocketing a generous tip, 20 on a $10 meal. Odd, but welcome. Rent was due, and her tips had been lean. Half an hour later, the bell jingled sharply, and the diner fell into a hush. 3 men entered, suits crisp as knife edges, flanked by 2 more in darker attire. Security, by the bulge under their jackets and the way they scanned the room. The leader was tall, mid-40s, with sharp features and hair slicked back like polished obsidian. He carried an air of quiet command, the kind that made waitresses straighten and cooks peek from the kitchen. Behind him, 2 others in tailored pinstripes clutched leather briefcases, their faces blank as ledgers. They took the center booth, the one with the best view of the door. Mia approached, notepad in hand, heart thudding inexplicably. "Evening, gentlemen. What can I get started for you?" The leader looked up, his dark eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that pinned her in place. "Coffee, black, and whatever she's having," he said, nodding toward the empty seat beside him. No, wait. He meant her. The briefcases clicked open, papers rustling like dry leaves. Working, Mia stammered, forcing a smile, but coffee's coming right up. As she turned, one of the lawyers cleared his throat. Miss Chen, a moment, if you please. How did they know her name? The diner wasn't that small. She froze, the pendant suddenly heavy in her pocket. The old woman. Had this been about her? Back at the counter, she poured the coffees with shaking hands, steam rising like a veil. Lena sidled up. Who are the suits? Feds. Worse, Mia muttered, though she didn't know why she said it. They looked like money, old, dangerous money, the kind that owned blocks, not just booths. Delivering the tray, she set it down carefully. The leader, Mr. Kang, his card would later reveal, didn't touch his cup. Instead, he slid a photo across the table, the old woman at the crosswalk, time-stamped minutes ago. You helped my mother, he said, voice low and even, like gravel under tires. She doesn't forget kindness. Neither do I. Mia's throat tightened. Mother, the frail lady with the dragon pendant. It was nothing. Just crossing the street. One lawyer leaned in, unfolding documents. Actually, it's everything. Mrs. Kang wishes to express gratitude formally. A gesture if you'll review these. The papers outlined a settlement. Medical bills covered, a lump sum for services rendered, and something about estate planning. It smelled off like dim sum left too long in the steamer. Why lawyers for a good deed? And how had they gotten here so fast? I appreciate it, but I'm fine, Mia said, pushing the stack back. Really? Kang's gaze didn't waver. Take your time. We're not in a rush. But his security shifted, one murmuring into a wrist mic. Outside, another SUV pulled up, headlights cutting the rain like searchlights. As Mia retreated to the kitchen, pulse racing, she fingered the pendant. Luck, the woman had said. But this felt like a debt, one that crossed into shadows she hadn't meant to enter. Who was watching the watchers? And what if saying no wasn't an option? The night stretched on, the diner's hum masking the low buzz of a phone vibrating in Kang's pocket. A message, perhaps, from a rival's ear on the street. Mia didn't know it yet, but the crosswalk had been no accident, and the lawyers were just the opening move in a game where kindness came with strings of steel. The diner's fluorescent lights flickered like hesitant witnesses as Mia slipped into the back alley for a breath of air, the door swinging shut behind her with a muffled thud. The rain had eased to a misty drizzle, turning the narrow passage into a slick vein of Chinatown's underbelly, dumpsters overflowing with fish bones and wilted bok choy, the air thick with a tang of fermented tofu and distant exhaust. She leaned against the brick wall, rough and graffiti-scarred, pulling the jade pendant from her pocket. Its dragon carving caught the faint glow from a security light, eyes seeming to gleam with unspoken warning. Why had Mrs. Kang given it to her? A token of thanks, sure, but the weight of it felt more like a key to a lock she didn't want to turn. Mia's fingers traced the pearl at its center, cool against her skin, and for a moment she wondered if the old woman had been testing her, seeing who would stop in the rain. Back inside, those suits waited, their presence like a shadow lengthening across the linoleum. She pocketed it again and re-entered through the kitchen, the sizzle of woks and clatter of pots, a brief shield. Lena was wiping down the counter, her eyes darting toward the booth. They're still there, nursing those coffees like they're poison. The tall one's got that look, like he owns the block. Mia nodded, grabbing a fresh pot. Yeah, the boss type. She poured refills without being asked, the steam curling up to fog her vision momentarily. As she approached, the security men straightened imperceptibly, one adjusting his earpiece with a subtle click. Kang watched her every step, his expression unreadable, a man who'd learned to mask intentions behind a veneer of civility. Miss Chen, he said as she set the cups down, his voice carrying the faint lilt of old soul overlaid with San Francisco steel. Please sit, just for a minute. She hesitated, glancing at the empty diner. Last patrons had trickled out, leaving only the hum of the fridge and the tick of the wall clock. "I'm on shift. Boss'll dock my pay." Kang's lips quirked, not quite a smile. "Your boss is already compensated for the interruption." "Aye." He gestured to the kitchen door, where Mr. Liu peeked out, nodding vigorously before vanishing. Mia's stomach twisted. How deep did this go? She slid into the booth opposite him, the vinyl creaking under her. The lawyers flanked him, one sliding the documents back toward her, a neat stack of legalese, headers bolded in black ink. "It's straightforward," the shorter one said, his tie pin glinting like a badge. "Mrs. Kang's gratitude includes covering any outstanding debts, rent, medical, even tuition if applicable. In exchange, a simple non-disclosure. Family matters stay private." "Non-disclosure?" Mia scanned the top page, words blurring. "Confidential assistance rendered. Potential liabilities." It read like a contract for more than a crosswalk favor. "This is overkill. I just helped her across. No big deal." Kang leaned forward, elbows on the table, the scent of his cologne, sandalwood, and something sharper, like gun oil, cutting through the coffee aroma. "To some, kindness is rare. To my family, it's a debt. My mother hasn't walked those streets alone in years, not since." He paused, eyes flicking to the window where rain traced erratic paths down the glass. Complications arose. The pendant burned in her pocket like a guilty secret. Complications. The photo they'd shown, time-stamped, high-res, must have come from a street cam or worse, one of their own watchers. Mia thought of the SUV earlier, its tinted windows hiding who knew what lenses. "She's safe now?" "Safia, thanks to you." Kang's gaze held hers, probing. "But the city has eyes, not all friendly." One lawyer cleared his throat, tapping a pen against the briefcase. "Sign here and it's done. A check for 20,000 as initial gesture. More if needed." 20,000? Mia's mind reeled, enough to cover the diner repairs her brother owed or finally escape this grind. But the offer sat heavy, like dim sum laced with something bitter. Why the rush? And why her, a nobody waitress with calloused hands and a one-bedroom walk-up? She pushed the papers away again. "I can't. It feels wrong, like I'm buying into something." Kang's expression hardened, just a fraction, the jaw tightening, a vein pulsing at his temple. "Wrong is leaving debts unpaid. In my world, that's how wars start." His security shifted, one murmuring into his sleeve, "Clear on the street, no tails." The words hung, unspoken threats weaving through the diner's quiet. Mia stood, heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. "I need to think, please." He nodded once, sharp as a blade. "Take the night, but don't wander far." As she retreated to the counter, the lawyers packed up, briefcases snapping shut like jaws. Kang lingered, pulling out a sleek phone, burner by the matte finish, and dialing. "Mother's secure." The girl's hesitant. "Send the detail." Outside, the rain picked up, drumming on the awning like impatient code. Mia busied herself with closing tasks, stacking chairs with mechanical precision, but her eyes kept straying to the window. Another SUV idled now, this one with plates half obscured by mud, California tags, but the first two letters smudged. Coincidence or a deliberate blur? Lena sidled up, voice low. "They're leaving, but that big guy's staring daggers." Indeed, Kang paused at the door, turning back. "The pendant, keep it close. It's more than luck." Then he was gone, vanishing into the SUV's maw, tail lights bleeding red into the wet night. Mia locked the door behind the last straggler, the bells jingle a final echo. Alone now, she unfolded the top document left behind, a subtle slip or bait. It detailed Mrs. Kang's recent health scare, mentioning a fall near the crosswalk, witnessed but unreported. Unreported why? And the notary stamp, dated yesterday, too fresh, like they'd anticipated the need. She pocketed it, unease coiling tighter. The pendant's chain slipped cool against her collarbone as she shrugged on her jacket. Walking home through the fog-shrouded alleys, footsteps echoed oddly behind her. Light, then gone. Paranoia or real? At her building, a nondescript sedan waited across the street, engine idling low. No plates visible in the dark. Inside her apartment, the lock clicked twice. Extra bolt for nights like this. She brewed tea, the kettle's whistle piercing the silence, and spread the papers on her rickety table. Clues emerged. A reference to Kang Enterprises. Not just real estate, but shipping manifests tucked in the margins. Coded entries for imports from Busan. Weights that didn't match furniture hauls. Smuggling. Or legitimate trade. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. Text, review carefully, call if questions, at JK. Attached, a photo, her moments ago locking the diner, time-stamped. Mia's breath caught. Surveillance wasn't subtle. It was a net closing. Who was the old woman really protecting her from? And if Kang's world was this watchful, what shadows lurked in the ones she didn't see? As thunder rumbled over the bay, she clutched the pendant, wondering if crossing that street had pulled her into a current too strong to swim against. The morning sun filtered through the grimy blinds of Mia's apartment, casting striped shadows across the cluttered kitchen table where the Kang documents lay like an uninvited guest. She hadn't slept much. The pendant's chain looped around her neck now, its jade weight a constant reminder against her skin. The text from JK, Kang, she assumed, glowed on her phone screen, unanswered. Surveillance. The word echoed in her mind, mingling with the drip of the leaky faucet and the distant wail of a siren slicing through the fog over Nob Hill. She dressed quickly, jeans, a faded hoodie, sneakers scuffed from too many shifts, and stuffed the papers into her backpack. No way was she calling him. Not yet, but ignoring it felt like tempting fate, especially after spotting that sedan last night. Mia grabbed her keys, the metal jangling like loose change in a beggar's cup, and headed out. The hallway smelled of stale rice and cigarette smoke from the neighbors, the building's ancient wiring humming faintly behind the walls. Down on the street the air was crisp with bay salt and the faint rot of overripe fruit from the market stalls. Chinatown stirred to life, vendors unfolding awnings with sharp snaps, steam rising from carts selling pork buns that filled the air with savory warmth. Mia wove through the crowd, her steps quick but measured, eyes scanning for tails. A bicycle courier zipped past, bell tinkling. An old man with a fishing pole nodded from his stoop. Normal, but paranoia prickled. Every reflection in a shop window could hide a watcher. Her phone buzzed again as she turned onto Stockton Street. Unknown number. Breakfast at Lotus Garden, 9 a.m. Come alone. JK. No photo this time. Just coordinates pinned to a discreet upscale spot 2 blocks from the diner. How did he know her schedule? She hadn't mentioned her shift end. Mia's thumb hovered over delete, but curiosity and a sliver of fear won. Better to face it head on than let shadows chase her home. The Lotus Garden was a step up from the Golden Lotus, polished bamboo screens, silk lanterns swaying gently from the ceiling, the aroma of fresh jasmine tea cutting through the sizzle of duck pancakes on the grill. It catered to the moneyed crowd, tourists with guidebooks, and locals who whispered deals over dim sum. Mia pushed through the etched glass door at 8:55, the chime soft and elegant, unlike the diner's brassy bell. A hostess in a qipao glanced up, her smile practiced. Reservation for Chen. Word had spread. Mia nodded, pulse quickening as she was led to a private alcove at the back, partitioned by a beaded curtain that rattled like distant rain. Kang sat alone, no lawyers in sight, a pot of tea steaming before him. He wore a charcoal suit, understated but cut sharp, the kind that screamed boardrooms and backroom negotiations. His security lingered outside the window. Two men in casual jackets, pretending to read newspapers on a bench, their postures too rigid. "Miss Chen," he said, rising slightly, gesturing to the seat across from him. No entourage, no pressure, just the quiet authority of a man used to obedience. "Tea?" She slid into the booth, the cushion plush against her worn jeans, feeling out of place amid the linen napkins and porcelain. "Black coffee's fine. What's this about? More papers?" Kang poured anyway, the liquid amber and fragrant, sliding the cup toward her. "A conversation. No strings yet." His eyes, dark and assessing, flicked to the pendant visible at her collar. "It suits you. My mother chose well." Mia touched it instinctively, the jade warming under her fingers. She seemed scared yesterday, on the street. He leaned back, the booth's wood creaking softly. The fall wasn't an accident. Slippery sidewalks, yes, but someone made sure she was alone. Rivals, old grudges from the import business. His voice stayed even, but a shadow crossed his face, the weight of unspoken losses. Kang Enterprises, the documents hinted, dealt in shipping lanes from Korea to the Bay Area, electronics, textiles, the occasional whisper of contraband slipping through customs like fog through the Golden Gate. "Rivals?" Mia echoed, sipping the tea despite herself. It was smooth, bitter-edged, grounding her nerves. Like what? Corporate espionage? A faint smile gone in an instant. Worse. Triads from the old country, or local crews eyeing our roots. They hit where it hurts. Family. He set down his cup with deliberate care, the porcelain clinking like a gavel. "You stopped that." Gave her a moment's grace. "Now, they're watching you too." The alcove felt smaller, the beaded curtain muffling the restaurant's hum, waiters murmuring orders, chopsticks clicking. Mia glanced out. One of the newspaper readers adjusted his cap, murmuring into a concealed mic, subtle but not invisible. "The SUV last night, the photo, that's you?" "Protection," Kang corrected, his tone firm. "Until we sort the mess. Sign the agreement and it's formal. Security, resources. Walk away and you're on your own in a city that forgets kindness fast." She pulled the backpack onto her lap, unzipping it to slide the documents across. "This mentions manifests, imports that don't add up. What's really in those shipments?" Kang's gaze sharpened, a flicker of surprise. Or calculation. He didn't touch the papers. Legitimate trade mostly. But competition gets dirty. Falsified logs, tampered seals. We audit everything. Outside, a delivery truck rumbled by, its engine growl masking a second vehicle pulling up. A grey sedan, plates clean, but the driver lingering too long at the wheel. Kang's eyes flicked to it, then back. See? Eyes everywhere. Mia's mind raced, piecing fragments. The old woman's darting glance, the pendant's intricate carve, perhaps a family heirloom or a signal. The document's margins held scribbled notes in Hangul, untranslated, but one symbol matched a logo she'd glimpsed on a crate at the docks once, during a rare day off, walking the Embarcadero. If I sign, what then? Am I part of this? He reached across, not touching her hand, but close enough for her to catch the faint scent of his aftershave, clean with an undercurrent of tension. Part of safety. My code. Protect what's mine. Family. Debts. You. The words carried weight, a vow etched from years of betrayals, his posture straightening like a man who'd lost too much to chance. The tea grew cold as they talked, short bursts, probing. He sketched the threat. A rival faction, the Black Dragon Syndicate, muscling into Kang's shipping lanes with bribes to port officials and hacked manifests. The old woman's fall was a warning, staged near the crosswalk to draw her out alone. Mia's help, unplanned but pivotal, disrupting their surveillance rotation. "Why tell me all this?" she pressed, voice low. The restaurant filled, laughter from a nearby table jarring against the alcove's intimacy. "Because debts bind us, and you have fire." Kang signaled the waitress. No, not her, another who nodded and vanished. Moments later, a discreet envelope arrived. Photos, grainy but clear. Two men in hoodies near the crosswalk yesterday, one tampering with a streetlight wire. Sabotage. For you to see it's real. Mia's hands trembled as she pocketed them. Real. Too real. The sedan outside revved, pulling away just as Kang's security stood, hands slipping inside jackets. "They're testing," he murmured. "Go home. I'll have a car follow." At a distance. She stood, the chair scraping softly. "I need time." "Time's the one thing we don't have." His eyes held hers, a pull she felt despite the warning bells, possessiveness wrapped in gratitude, autonomy clashing against the net of his world. As Mia stepped into the street, the sun breaking through clouds to glint off wet pavement, the air hummed with unseen tension. Her phone vibrated. A text from Lena. "Diner's got visitors asking for you. Cops? Hurry." But which door to knock on first? The diner's or the one Kang had cracked open? And if the black dragons were this bold, what waited in the shadows of her next step? If you're enjoying this story so far, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Mia's sneakers slapped against the uneven sidewalk as she cut through the throng on Stockton Street, the backpack thumping against her side like a second heartbeat. The morning bustle enveloped her, vendors hawking steaming xiaolongbao from carts, their bamboo steamers hissing in the warming air, mingled with the sharp tang of fresh ginger from an herb stall. But the text from Lena gnawed at her. Visitors at the diner asking for her. Cops, or worse, Kang's rivals sniffing around, or his own people tightening the noose. She dodged a cluster of tourists snapping photos of a dragon mural, the colours vivid against the weathered brick, and broke into a jog. The pendant bounced against her chest, a subtle reminder of the web she'd stumbled into. Kang's words echoed. "Time's the one thing we don't have." Breakfast had been a calculated lure, peeling back just enough to hook her. Photos of sabotage, hints of triads poaching shipping routes. Legitimate business, he'd claimed, but those manifest notes in the documents screamed otherwise. Discrepancies in cargo weights, ports of call looping through murky waters off Incheon. Human error, or deliberate fog. The Golden Lotus Diner came into view, its neon sign flickering erratically even in daylight, the open placard swinging like a hesitant flag. Mia slowed, scanning the street. No obvious tails, no sedans idling, no hooded figures lingering by the newsstand, but a beat-up blue van sat curbside, its side panel advertising plumbing services, engine off, but exhaust faintly warm to the touch if she dared check. Paranoia or pattern? She pushed through the door, the bell's jangle cutting sharper than usual. Lena looked up from behind the counter, her apron dusted with flour, eyes wide under the diner's harsh fluorescence. The place was empty, save for a lone regular nursing coffee at the far end, his newspaper a flimsy shield. "Mia, thank God. Those guys were here 10 minutes ago, 2 of them, rough types, asking if you worked the late shift last night. Flashed some badge, but it looked off. Cheap plastic, not metal." Mia's pulse spiked, the air thick with the greasy residue of breakfast hash and lingering soy. What did they say about the old lady? Lena leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper over the hum of the coffee urn. "Just your name when you clocked out." One had a tattoo peeking from his cuff, a dragon coiled like that pendant you're wearing. Creepy. They left this. She slid a crumpled card across the counter. Plain stock, no name, just a phone number and a symbol. A black ink dragon, pearl clutched in its claws, mirroring the jade at Mia's throat. She pocketed it, stomach twisting. Black Dragon Syndicate. Kang's rivals, he'd implied. The pendant wasn't just luck, it was a marker, perhaps a family sigil turned warning. Did they threaten you? Nah, but Mr. Liu freaked, locked the back door after, said something about trouble following good deeds. Lena glanced toward the kitchen, where the owner bustled with pots clanging like alarm bells. You in some kind of mess. That suit from last night, Kang. He called earlier, said to watch for you. Mia's phone vibrated in her pocket, insistent. She fished it out. JK again. At the diner? Stay put. Detail en route. No time for subtlety now. She texted Lena a quick thanks and slipped into the bathroom, the door's lock clicking with finality. The mirror reflected her flushed face, shadows under her eyes from the sleepless night. She unfolded the documents from her backpack, scanning under the dim bulb. One page caught her, a shipping manifest addendum dated last week. Cargo adjustment, Busan to Oakland. Weight variance, 200 kilos unaccounted. Internal audit pending. Scribbled in the margin, a license plate. Partial 6XJ, matching the mud-smeared SUV from yesterday. Footsteps echoed outside the door, heavy, deliberate. Mia froze, stuffing the papers away. A knock, Lena's voice muffled. Mia? Phone for you. Guy says it's urgent. She emerged, the diner feeling smaller, walls closing like a trap. Lena handed over the landline receiver, cord coiled like a snake. Hello? Kang's voice, calm but edged with gravel. Miss Chen, the van outside. Don't approach. Our rivals. They're tracing the pendant's signal. Signal? The jade wasn't just stone. A tracker embedded, subtle tech from his world of imports. GPS chip, common in high-end heirlooms to safeguard against theft. My team's 2 minutes out. Head to the alley exit now. The line clicked dead. Mia's eyes darted to the window. The blue van's driver door cracked open. A man in a windbreaker stepping out, scanning the street with a burner phone to his ear. Not plumbers. His gaze locked on the diner. Purposeful. Heart hammering, she nodded to Lena. Cover for me. Tell him I called in sick. She bolted through the kitchen, Mr. Liu's protests fading behind the sizzle of oil. The alley door banged open to the now familiar reek of dumpsters and damp brick. Rain from last night pooling in craters. She sprinted, backpack bouncing, the pendant's chain tugging like an anchor. Footsteps pounded behind. The van man or imagination? A chain-link fence loomed at the alley's end. She vaulted it, landing in a side street lined with shuttered laundromats, the air humming with distant cable car bells. A black SUV screeched around the corner, tires biting wet asphalt, Kang's security at the wheel. The window rolled down, a familiar face from the booth last night, broad shoulders, earpiece glinting. In! Now! Mia dove into the back seat, the leather cool and confining, doors locking with a solid thunk as they peeled away. Through the tinted glass, she glimpsed the van, accelerating in pursuit, its fake logo peeling at the edges. "What the hell's happening?" she demanded, breath ragged. The driver, security chief by his clipped tone, glanced in the rear view. "Black dragons. They ID'd the pendant's trace. Boss is meeting us at the safe house. Hold tight." The SUV wove through traffic, horns blaring in protest, the city blurring into streaks of red taillights and fog-draped high-rises. Mia clutched the backpack, the documents inside a powder keg. The plate number, 6XJ, could lead to the van if Kang's people ran it. But trust him, his protection felt like possession, autonomy slipping through her fingers like bay mist. And the tattooed intruders at the diner, had they come for the old woman or now for her? As they merged onto the Embarcadero, the warehouse district looming with its rusted cranes and foghorn moans, another vehicle slotted in behind, a grey sedan, unassuming but persistent. Kang's doing, or the dragon's closing ranks? The safe house waited, but so did answers, and the cost of stepping deeper into his shadowed empire. The SUV's engine growled low as it barreled along the Embarcadero. The bay's salt-laced wind, whipping through a cracked window, carrying the mournful wail of foghorns from the distant piers. Mia gripped the leather seat, her knuckles white, the backpack wedged between her feet like a fragile shield. The warehouse district unfolded ahead, hulking silhouettes of rusted shipping containers stacked like forgotten secrets, sodium lights buzzing faintly against the overcast sky. The grey sedan hung back 2 cars, its headlights a persistent glare in the rear view, weaving just enough to suggest intent without committing. "They're on us," the driver muttered into his earpiece, his voice a gravelly thread over the hum of tires on damp asphalt. 6 XJ plates confirmed. Black Dragon runner, stolen tags from an impound last week. He glanced at Mia in the mirror, eyes hard under a buzzed scalp. "Boss says stay low. Safe house is 2 blocks east. Old cannery off India Basin." Mia's mind raced, piecing the fragments. The van's fake logo, the tattooed intruders at the diner, now this tale. The partial plate from the manifest matched 6XJ, a breadcrumb from Kang's world of tampered shipments and rival encroachments. No coincidence. The Black Dragons weren't just poaching routes. They were hunting markers like the pendant, perhaps to disrupt the Kang family's internal signals or worse, leverage against the old woman. She fingered the jade at her throat, wondering if its embedded tracker was a lifeline or a beacon drawing wolves. The SUV veered sharply into a narrower street, flanked by chain-link fences topped with razor wire, the air thickening with the metallic tang of rust and tidal mud. Graffiti-scarred walls loomed, shadows pooling in alley mouths where stray cats slunk like silent sentries. A sudden jolt, the sedan closing fast, bumping the rear fender with a metallic scrape that echoed like a warning shot. No gunfire, just pressure, a botched escort tactic, forcing them toward a dead end or an ambush point. "Hold on!" the driver barked, flooring it. The vehicle fishtailed, tires screeching as they clipped a pothole, splashing brackish water that smelled of diesel and decay. Mia's head snapped back, the seatbelt biting into her shoulder. Through the side mirror, she saw the sedan's driver, lean face, eyes shielded by sunglasses even in the gloom, gesturing to a passenger who leaned out with a slim device glinting. A signal jammer? Common black market tech, the kind that scrambled GPS in high-stakes extractions, bought cheap from Bay Area hackers. The jammer's effect hit like a blackout. Mia's phone screen flickered, then died, the pendant's subtle warmth fading as if its chip had gone silent. "They're blinding us," she said, voice tight, pulling the documents from her backpack. One page fluttered open, a ledger excerpt. Discrete entries in faded ink. Busan consignment, Doja 47, 1,800 kilos declared, 2,000 kilos actual. Diversion to secondary dock. Human error or a rival's plant. The dates aligned with Mrs. Kang's fall, a diversion to isolate her, perhaps while insiders siphoned cargo. The driver swerved into the cannery lot, gravel crunching under the wheels, the building rising like a concrete behemoth. Boarded windows, faded signage from the sardine-packing days, now a front for Kang's legitimate storage. Floodlights snapped on, harsh beams cutting the fog, revealing 2 more SUVs idling at the perimeter, security men fanning out with suppressed radios crackling. Kang emerged from the shadows of the entrance, coat flapping in the wind, his silhouette framed by the yawning garage door. No lawyers, just resolve, etched in his jawline. The sedan peeled off at the sight, tires smoking as it vanished into the maze of containers. False alarm or tactical retreat? Mia tumbled out as the SUV braked hard, Kang's hand steadying her elbow, firm but not possessive, his touch lingering just long enough to ground her. "Inside," he said, voice low against the lap of waves on nearby pilings. "They're probing weaknesses." The safe-house interior was a stark contrast to the diner's warmth. Exposed brick walls humming with hidden generators. The air cool and sterile, with the faint ozone of surveillance tech. A long table dominated the space, littered with laptops and encrypted drives, maps of shipping lanes pinned to a corkboard, red lines tracing rival incursions from the Presidio tunnels to the Oakland docks. Security Chief Ryu, she'd learn, nodded to Kang, handing over a tablet. Jammer disrupted the trace for 90 seconds. They're escalating, tapped into port cams, got eyes on the old lady's route. Kang's eyes met Mia's, a flicker of something raw beneath the command, gratitude laced with fear, his code of protection clashing against the autonomy he sensed in her guarded stance. You saw the van, the tattoo. That's their mark, black dragons, splinter from the old soul syndicates. They want our manifests to reroute shipments, undercut us with bribes to the longshoremen. Mother's pendant was bait. They rigged the crosswalk light to short out, cause the slip. You disrupted their window. Mia set the backpack down, spreading the documents on the table, the paper rustling like dry whispers. This ledger, weight variances. It's not just audits. Someone's feeding them intel. A turncoat in your crew. She pointed to a scrawled note. Guard rotation 0300, access code 729. Subtle behavioral tell. Perhaps a dock worker's offhand slip, or worse, one of Kang's own. Loyalty fraying under rival payoffs. He studied it, brow furrowing, the room's hum underscoring the tension. Possible. We rotate codes weekly, but human error. His voice trailed, a past loss shadowing his words. A brother, perhaps, betrayed in a similar play years back, shaping his unyielding vow to shield innocence. Outside, rain began to patter on the metal roof, turning the lot into a slick hazard, distant thunder rumbling like approaching enforcers. Ryu interrupted, phone to ear. Perimeter breach, fence cutter at the east side, 2 intruders, armed light. Alarms whooped softly, red lights pulsing along the walls. Kang moved to a console, pulling up feeds, grainy cams showing hooded figures slipping through the wire, one clutching a burner phone, the other scanning with a handheld detector, hunting the pendant signal or Mia herself. Evac route, Kang ordered, grabbing a go bag from a locker, passports, cash stacks, a spare jammer. His gaze locked on her, pull and push evident, the debt binding them, her independence a flame he wouldn't smother. We move to the penthouse. Trust me on this. Mia hesitated, heart pounding with the storm's building roar. The document's clues, a half-unraveled thread. Sign the agreement, step into his protection, or bolt into the rain, autonomy intact but exposed. As the intruders breached the outer door with a muffled crack, the safehouse's lights flickered, plunging them into strategic dark, the true cost of the chase just beginning to unfold. The safe house plunged into shadow, the flickering lights stabilizing into a deliberate dimness. Emergency mode, Kang had explained once in a clipped briefing, designed to mask movements from thermal scans or opportunistic eyes. Rain hammered the metal roof now, a relentless tattoo that drowned out the distant crack of the breached door, but inside, tension coiled like the fog rolling off the bay. Mia pressed against the cool brick wall, her breath shallow, the pendant's chain slick with sweat against her collarbone. The air hummed with the low whine of backup generators kicking in, carrying the faint, acrid scent of overheated circuits and the ever-present brine from the nearby pilings. Kang moved like a shadow himself, efficient and unhurried, flipping a switch on the console to arm silent alarms. Ryu, flank left, cover the loading dock. No shots unless they force it. His voice was steel-wrapped calm, honed from years of navigating betrayals that had cost him blood kin. His code, a bulwark against the chaos of syndicates where loyalty frayed like old rope. Ryu nodded, slipping a compact pistol from his holster, suppressed, matte black, the kind sourced from discreet arms dealers in the Tenderloin, and vanished through a side panel, his footsteps muffled on the concrete. Mia clutched the go-bag Kang had thrust into her hands, its zipper biting into her palm. Inside, a burner phone, still in plastic, and a slim wallet fat with hundreds, crisp as fresh threats. "Why me?" she whispered, eyes darting to the corkboard where maps fluttered in the draft from a hidden vent, red pins marking rival hotspots. From the shadowy tunnels under Portsmouth Square to the guarded warehouses along the waterfront, the documents from her backpack lay scattered on the table, illuminated by the console's glow. That guard rotation code, 729, now a glaring accusation. Had it come from within? A longshoreman bought off with promises of easy scores, or someone closer, like the security chief murmuring too freely? Kang turned to her, his face half-lit, shadows carving lines of resolve around his eyes. The pull between them thrummed unspoken, his possessiveness a shield forged from loss, her autonomy a spark refusing to dim. Because you crossed that street. Debts like that don't vanish in the rain. He guided her toward a rear corridor, the floor gritty underfoot with years of salt and secrecy, the walls echoing with the storm's fury outside. Distant shouts filtered through, Ryu's voice, low and urgent, barking coordinates into his radio. 2 tangos, armed with cutters and a scanner. They're after the signal. The corridor opened to a service elevator, its doors dented from hasty exits past. Kang punched in an override code, fingers flying over a keypad worn smooth, and the mechanism groaned to life, cables humming like strained nerves. As they stepped in, the space felt claustrophobic, the air stale with dust and faint motor oil. Mia's mind raced through clues, the ledger's variances, those unaccounted kilos rerouted to secondary docks. Perhaps not contraband, but falsified to cover bribes paid to port insiders, black dragon plants siphoning profits while staging diversions like the old woman's fall. The jammer earlier had bought them time, but now, with the power dip, their own systems flickered, cams glitching to static. The elevator lurched downward. Toward an underground garage, Kang's enterprise had carved into the cannery's foundations, tunnels linking to the Embarcadero's sewer lines, a relic of Prohibition-era smuggling routes repurposed for modern evasions. "The penthouse is across the bay," he said, checking his watch, its face glowing faintly. "Helipad extraction if needed. But first, we lose the tail." His hand brushed hers on the bag, not lingering, but enough to convey the vow. Protection, not ownership, tested by the night's unraveling. The doors parted to a dimly lit expanse, concrete pillars dripping with condensation, the air cooler and damper, laced with the earthy rot of tidal mud seeping through grates. 2 black sedans waited, engines idling low, headlights off to avoid drawing eyes from the perimeter cams, security details, 4 men, vests bulging under rain slickers, fanned out, one scanning a tablet for heat signatures. "Clear for now," the lead said, voice crackling over the static of a jammed signal. "But the breach team's got a vehicle circling the basin. Plates match the diner's intruders. 6XJ series, stolen from a chop shop in the Mission." Mia's stomach knotted, the partial plate from the manifest. It tied back, a thread of human error or deliberate leak. "That code in the papers, 729, your rotation. If they have it, someone's talking." Kang's jaw tightened, a flicker of betrayal crossing his features, the ghost of old wounds, a sibling lost to a turncoat's whisper in soul's underbelly. "We'll audit. Names, alibis. My code doesn't bend for snakes." He opened the rear door of the lead sedan, ushering her in, the leather seats yielding with a soft creak, still warm from prior use. As she slid across, the vehicle filled with the faint scent of wet wool and gun cleaner, the dashboard's GPS flickering back online, unjammed but vulnerable. They peeled out of the garage, tires crunching over gravel that gave way to slick pavement, the tunnel's sodium lights streaking past like blurred warnings. Rain lashed the windshield, wipers thumping rhythmically, masking the low buzz of pursuit scanners in the glove box. Behind them, the cannery receded, its silhouette swallowed by the storm, but Mia caught a glimpse in the side mirror, headlights blooming in the fog, The grey sedan reappearing, persistent as a grudge. "They're locked on," the driver reported, accelerating into a curve that hugged the waterfront, the bay's black waters churning visible through chain-link gaps. Kang leaned forward, tapping the partition. Diversion at the next junction. Flash the decoy. The sedan surged, weaving through light traffic on the access road, horns blaring from startled cabbies. Mia gripped the door handle, the go-bag at her feet, her thoughts fracturing. Sign the agreement for his net of security, or cut loose at the first red light, ethics clashing against the raw fear of exposure? The Black Dragon's boldness, tapping cams, staging slips, revealed a deeper rot, perhaps an inside man feeding them roots. Turning Kang's empire into a sieve. A sudden blackout hit, not the storm, but deliberate. Junction lights failing, plunging the intersection into hazardous dark, vehicles slamming brakes amid screeching tires and shouted curses. The sedan hydroplaned slightly, fishtailing on the wet asphalt, the pursuing lights veering wildly as their driver misjudged the turn. Kang's hand steadied Mia's shoulder, firm anchor in the chaos. "Staged," he murmured. "Our counter, power tap from the grid, buys us a window." They burst through the blackout, emerging onto the bridge approach, the sedan's taillights fading in the mirror. But as the penthouse lights twinkled across the water, a fortified tower in Pacific Heights, its restricted floors a world of glass and steel, another shadow slotted in. A motorcycle, sleek and anonymous, weaving through lanes. Rider in black, helmet visor reflecting the storm's fury. Ally, or the next layer of infiltration? The cost mounted, injury to pride, exposure of cracks in the code. And Mia wondered if the true betrayal waited not in the rain, but in the reflections staring back from the dash. If this tale already has you hooked, hit the like button. It helps us bring more hidden stories to light. The sedan's wipers slashed through the relentless downpour, carving fleeting arcs of clarity on the windshield as the bridge's suspension cables loomed like steel veins overhead. Mia's fingers dug into the go-bag on her lap, the leather strap creaking under her grip, while the dashboard's faint glow illuminated Kang's profile, jaw set, eyes fixed on the side mirror where the motorcycle's single headlight bobbed like a predator's eye. The air inside the vehicle was thick with the mingled scents of rain-soaked wool from their jackets and the sharp metallic tang of the pursuit scanner humming in the glove box. Thunder rolled across the bay, vibrating the chassis, as if the storm itself conspired with the shadows chasing them. "Helmet cam tagged," the driver reported, his voice a clipped bark over the engine's growl. He was a stocky man named Torres, Kang's veteran enforcer, his knuckles white on the wheel as he accelerated onto the span, the sedan's tires humming against the grated deck. "Not one of ours." Black Dragon Scout, relaying to their net. "They'll vector a convoy from the Oakland side." Kang nodded once, his hand resting on the armrest, close enough to Mia that she felt the heat of it without touch. A silent anchor amid the chaos. "Evasive at the toll plaza. Use the service lane." His tone carried the weight of calculated restraint, his personal code a tether. No innocents harmed, no needless blood spilled. Even as old losses whispered of the cost of hesitation, the motorcycle surged closer, weaving through the sparse traffic of late-night commuters, its rider leaning low, the visor a blank mask reflecting taillights like distant warnings. Mia's mind spun through the fragments she'd gathered, the ledger's discrepancies, the guard code 729 that screamed betrayal. The pendant's tracker now a double-edged blade. Had Kang's own people planted the leak? A longshoreman with a gambling debt? Or someone higher, loyalty eroded by rival bribes funneled through hacked port manifests? She glanced at the burner phone in the bag, its screen dark but promising connection once they cleared the jam. "That blackout back there. You're doing—" "Contingency," Kang replied, his gaze flicking to her, probing the tension between them. his urge to shield clashing with her fierce independence, a push-pull forged in the rain-slicked streets she'd crossed alone. Grid tap from a substation. By seconds, not minutes. The Dragons have insiders. Someone fed them the cannery's weak points. We're auditing rotations tonight. The toll plaza approached. Barriers glowing under sodium arcs, the rain turning the asphalt into a mirrored hazard. Torres veered into the service lane, a narrow chute flanked by concrete barriers, the sedan scraping sparks from a low overhang. The motorcycle hesitated, then followed, engine revving high as it dodged a patrol car idling at the booth. Mia's heart thudded, the go-bag zipper biting her thigh. Outside, the bay churned black and furious, whitecaps foaming against the pilings like unspoken threats. A sudden jolt. The motorcycle bumped the sedan's rear, a calculated nudge that sent them fishtailing across lanes, horns blaring from an oncoming truck. Torres corrected with a curse, the vehicle shuddering as it regained traction. "They're forcing a spin-out," he growled, punching the accelerator. Kang twisted in his seat, pulling a compact tablet from the console. Live feed from the sedan's cams, grainy but clear. The rider signaling with a gloved hand, a flash of wrist tattoo peeking out, black dragon coils mirroring the card from the diner. "Jam their comms," Kang ordered, his voice steady but laced with the gravel of restrained fury. Torres activated a dashboard switch, a low-frequency pulse emitting from hidden emitters, counter-tech, black-market jammers tuned to disrupt the short-range signals rivals used for coordination. The motorcycle swerved erratically, the rider tapping his helmet as if cursing a lost link, but it pressed on, closing the gap with reckless speed. Mia's eyes darted to the bridge's edge, the drop to the water a vertiginous void, wind howling through the struts. Why not lose them in the city? Back to Chinatown, alleys, crowds. Kang's hand finally touched hers, brief and grounding, the calluses on his palm speaking of deals sealed in dim backrooms rather than boardrooms. Too exposed. Penthouse has layers, biometric locks, private detail, feeds from every angle. But you're right. Autonomy's your strength. Once we're in, you choose. Sign for the net, or we part ways clean. The words hung heavy, his possessiveness tempered by respect, a code shaped by a past betrayal that had left his family fractured, vowing never to cage what he protected. The plaza cleared. The sedan bursting onto the Pacific Heights approach, winding streets lined with manicured hedges and iron gates that whispered of insulated wealth. The motorcycle faltered, falling back as the jammer took hold, but then, headlights multiplied in the mirror, two vans slotting in from a side street, unmarked but purposeful, their tires hissing on the wet pavement. Escalation. Torres radioed ahead. "Inbound hot. Prep the garage lockdown." The penthouse tower rose ahead, a sleek monolith of glass and steel piercing the storm clouds. Its lower levels humming with the discreet pulse of generators. Security lights swept the entrance, illuminating rain-swept marble steps where two armed details waited, rain ponchos flapping like capes. The sedan dove into the subterranean garage, barriers slamming down behind with a hydraulic thud, the air shifting to the dry, conditioned chill of underground vaults. Echoes of tires on polished concrete, the faint whir of ventilation fans pulling in filtered bay air. They piled out, Kang ushering Mia toward a service elevator, his arm a subtle barrier against the shadows. Torres and a pair of guards fanned back, pistols drawn but low, covering the ramp as the vans screeched to a halt outside, engines cutting. Doors hissing open to disgorge hooded figures, 4 in total, moving with tactical precision. No breach yet, but the garage cams flickered. One van's plate, partial in the downpour, 6XJ47, tying directly to the manifest's tampered entry, a stolen rig from a dragon front in the mission. Inside the elevator, ascending smooth and silent, Kang pulled up the building's internal feed on his phone. The intruders testing the barrier with bolt cutters, sparks flying in the rain, while a third figure lingered in a van, hunched over a laptop. Hacking attempt, probing the penthouse's firewall for access codes. "They're after the ledgers," Kang said, voice low as the doors parted to a foyer of polished oak and recessed lighting, the air scented with faint sandalwood from hidden diffusers. "Digital backups in the safe room. If they crack it, our routes go dark. Whole operation bleeds." Mia followed him down a hallway lined with abstract art. Korea's jagged coasts rendered in ink, her sneakers silent on the runner. The penthouse unfolded. Vast windows overlooking the storm-lashed bay, leather furniture arranged for command rather than comfort. A wall of monitors displaying live grids, shipping manifests scrolling, guard rotations updating in real time. Mrs. Kang waited in an armchair by the fireplace, her frail form bundled in a shawl, eyes sharp as she rose. "You brought her," she murmured, pressing a hand to Mia's arm, the touch echoing the crosswalk's grip. The debt deepens. But as Kang moved to the console, inputting overrides to seal the floors, an alarm chirped softly. Access code compromise, level 12. The guard rotation 729 leaked, perhaps from a bribed doorman or a hacked burner log. Footsteps echoed in the vents, distant but closing, the environment turning hazardous, with the storm's blackout threatening the grid. Mia's pulse raced. Who was the turncoat? And with the dragons infiltrating the tower's veins, could Kang's code hold against the betrayal, snaking closer? The penthouse's monitors flickered like hesitant allies, casting erratic blue glows across the vast room as the alarm's chirp escalated into a steady pulse. Rain lashed the floor-to-ceiling windows, turning the bay view into a blurred watercolor of churning black waves and distant lightning forks. Mia stood frozen in the foyer, the go-bag heavy at her side, the air thick with the ozone crackle of strained electronics and the faint underlying hum of the building's backup systems straining against the storm's blackout threats. Mrs. Kang's hand tightened on her arm, the old woman's grip a fragile anchor, her eyes, sharp despite the frailty, darting to the vent grates where shadows seemed to shift unnaturally. Kang moved with predatory grace, sealing the foyer doors with a biometric scan, his palm pressing flat against the panel until it beeped green. "Lockdown protocol," he said, voice low and even, but laced with the gravel of a man who'd stared down worse than infiltrated vents. "Level 12 breach, service ducts. They used the code." His gaze flicked to the wall of screens where a grainy feed showed hooded figures crawling through the narrow shafts, tools glinting, wire cutters, a slim laptop for overriding locks, standard infiltration gear sourced from the same underground networks that supplied his own operations. No dramatics, just human opportunism, exploiting the leaked 729 rotation to slip past outer guards distracted by the garage assault. Mia's breath caught, the pendant's jade pressing cool against her skin, its tracker now a silent liability in the jammed grid. "The ledger, it's one of yours, isn't it? Someone in your detail fed them the variances, the codes. Why else match the plates exactly?" The words tumbled out, her independence flaring against the pull of his world, ethics clashing with the raw survival instinct that had her scanning exits, the helipad access, the emergency stairwell hidden behind a false panel. Kang's expression hardened, a vein pulsing at his temple as he pulled a tablet from the console, fingers flying across the interface to cross-reference access logs. Ryu's rotation. He logged in at 0200. Off script. Betrayal hit like the thunder outside, his code fracturing under the weight of it. Protect the family, but what of the snakes within? Years ago, a similar leak had cost him a brother to a rival's blade in a Busan warehouse, shaping his vow to root out disloyalty without mercy. Torres, sweep the ducts, non-lethal if possible. He radioed the order, but his eyes met Mia's, the push-pull evident, possessiveness yielding to her fire, trust tested by the storm's chaos. Footsteps echoed from the vents, muffled thuds growing closer, accompanied by the scrape of metal on metal. Mrs. Kang whispered, "The dragon bites its tail." Her accented words a proverb laced with sorrow, pulling Mia toward the safe room, a reinforced chamber off the main suite, its door a slab of armored steel disguised as oak paneling. The air grew heavier, laced with the faint electrical sizzle of shorting circuits as the intruders tampered with the building's internals, a staged blackout flickering the lights to strobe warnings. Torres burst from a side hall, rain dripping from his slicker, face grim under the sodium emergency glow. Reused the leak, caught him signaling from the garage, took a bribe from the dragons for the manifest codes. He's down, zip-tied, but they got two through. No injury details, just the cost, exposure of the shipping routes, the unaccounted kilos now a roadmap for rivals to hijack consignments at the docks, bribing longshoremen with the same dirty money. The vent grate in the ceiling buckled with a clang, a figure dropping into the room, hooded, wiry, clutching a suppressed pistol low. Another followed, scanner in hand, beeping faintly as it hunted the pendant signal. Kang shoved Mia behind the console, his body a shield, drawing his own sidearm with fluid precision. "Stand down," he barked, voice cutting through the rain's roar. "The ledgers are encrypted. You won't crack them before dawn." The lead intruder, tattoo visible on his wrist, black dragon coiling, hesitated, eyes flicking to Mrs. Kang, then Mia. "The old woman's out. Hand over the girl and the jade. Boss wants the marker." It was a demand grounded in logistics. The pendant's chip held encrypted data on Kang's secure routes, a family heirloom turned key to their empire's veins. No heroics, just a race against time, the storm jamming external signals, blocking any helipad evac. Mia's heart hammered, autonomy surging as she grabbed a nearby fire extinguisher from its mount, the cold metal heavy in her hands. "Not happening," she said, voice steady despite the tremor, ethics demanding she fight the net closing around her. The room erupted in controlled chaos. Kang fired a warning shot into the floor, the suppressed pop muffled by thunder, forcing the intruders to dive behind furniture. Torres flanked, tackling the scanner wielder with a grunt, the device skittering across the rug to shatter against a table leg, its screen sparking out, data lost to the blackout. The lead figure lunged for Mrs. Kang, but Mia swung the extinguisher, the impact a solid thud against his shoulder, sending him sprawling without gore, just the crack of bone under pressure. Kang was on him in seconds. Cuffing wrists with zip ties from the go bag, the struggle ending in heavy breaths and the patter of rain on glass. The second intruder bolted for the vents, but Torres's taser hummed, dropping him mid-climb, a cost of exposure. The dragon's probe repelled, but their intel partially spilled. As security swarmed in, reinforcements from the lower floors, radios crackling with confirmations, the penthouse stabilized, lights steadying under generator power. Ryu was hauled up from the garage, his confession spilling in the aftermath. A gambling debt to the dragons, trading codes for a clean slate, human error amplified by greed. Kang watched him go, face etched with the scar of betrayal, his code intact but scarred, vows kept, but at the price of fractured trust. Mrs. Kang approached Mia, pressing her hands together in quiet thanks, the debt circle closing not with wealth, but with a nod of found kinship. Kang turned to her then, the storm easing to a drizzle outside, the bay's lights reclaiming the horizon. "You chose to stay, no contract needed." His words carried commitment, a pledge forged in the night's fire. Protection without chains, a future sketched in shared glances, loyalty outlasting the ledger's cold numbers. In the reflective quiet that followed, as clean-up crews swept the remnants and the tower's systems hummed back to vigilance, Mia realized the true treasure, not the Empire's spoils, but the transformation. The waitress who'd crossed a street now bound by choice to a magnate's restrained power, memory of the rain-slicked chase, a testament to autonomy, won through peril. The Black Dragon's threat had been real, organized rot in the shipping veins. But victory's cost, injured pride, exposed cracks, paled against the family forged in the shadows. Loyalty a light brighter than any sodium arc. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales of loyalty, danger, and found family. See you in the next story.